Sounds like football, baby.
What's happening, guys? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Smackdown. It's Thursday night. That means we're covering start sits here prior to the Thursday Night Football kickoff. I'm your host, Kyle August. You can follow me on Twitter at KyleMonth8. And joining me once again this week, back in the Saudi, we got a two-man show. We got Dallas at Salad Galore in the house. How's it going, brother?
Oh, pretty good. No complaints. This week has actually been pretty light for me, so I'm pretty excited.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm actually going to get to watch Thursday Night Football, so that'll be a change of pace for me.
Good. Hopefully it'll be a good game. As a Cowboys fan, I just want the W. As a fantasy owner in a lot of leagues, like I'm sure most of you are, where these last couple games are going to make a difference, whether that's you getting in or that's you getting that bye, which is always important. Hopefully you're picking up the dub, or at least get off a good start, I guess. I don't know if you win in one night, but anyway, so should be an interesting one here. If you're listening to this on the podcast on Friday, you're missing out. You need to be coming hanging out with us. It's late in the season, but never too late to join us on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time here on the Dynasty Warzone YouTube channel. Always a lot of fun answering your guys' questions. So be sure to get those things in the chat if you're checking us out live now. So before we get into the good stuff, we'll check back in with you, bro. How's your season shaping up so far as we're getting down to the wire here with just a couple weeks left in the fantasy regular season?
Yeah, it's going pretty good overall. Last week was quite possibly the worst week I've ever had in fantasy, though. I went 0-8 across all of my leagues, and as anyone in the Patreon knows, I took it as retribution for my shitty tight end advice last week. So, yeah, it was a rough week for Higbee for me last week, and it showed in a lot of my lineups. But I'll be making the playoffs in 6 out of 8. I'm tanking on purpose in 2, so pretty successful. I should be the top seed. The one that I'm really concerned about actually is the one that I only have 1 loss in this year. And I just had, a dinged up Zeke and a dinged up Dalvin Cook and a dinged up Deandre Swift all in the same week. So I'm a little sketched out with my running back depth going into the playoffs. It'll be interesting.
It is crazy how the rosters can flip your expectations can flip on a dime, man, because I know just a week ago, I was sitting there, had Zeke, who, has been banged up, but now maybe a little bit more. Had Darren Waller, who I just traded for a couple weeks ago, felt really good about that. Not so great. And then AJ Brown, so and I had that weird that I had that combination across 3 different leagues. So oddly enough, when you have 100 leagues, that'll happen. But now I'm sitting there like, I don't know if I like these teams anymore. So I hear you on that, man. But good to hear. So we got a couple of people in the chat. We got Ace, what up, man? The mayonnaise man himself dropping in. So Dukes for life. And then we got the friend of the show, G, the Aussie. This is directed at me, I'm sure. How do you handle a co-owner that will not take your calls? Dude, you should string that guy up because the dude doesn't answer your phone calls when you're also on a 10-hour time difference or whatever it is. So right here, sorry, bro, I dodged you, I guess. I got to prep for this show. But let's dive into some start sits. Don't worry, Dallas. We're going to give you a pass on the tight end thing last week because Memphis, forced us to record on Tuesday night last week. So you didn't get the proper time, I feel like, to hammer it all out. So a little rushed. I won't hold that result against you. So, it's up to you if you want to factor that in into your Dallas tight end statistics that you keep there.
I'm still batting 6 for 7. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. So let's start off with the quarterbacks this week. We got 4 teams on bye this week and next. So still some guys out of our lineups as we are heading down to crunch time here. But Dallas, who are you looking to start at the quarterback position in week 13?
Yeah, for me, it's Burrow. I want everything to do with Cincy against the Chargers. The Chargers on defense are pretty much falling apart. I know that their ranks don't seem to be that bad against the quarterback position, but they're just kind of getting carved up left and right. They've been involved in 2 out of the 3 biggest shootouts that have happened this season. And That's what I want from a quarterback. I want a good quarterback on the other side that's going to force my quarterback to push the ball. Cincy's offense really went through a weird, awkward spot a couple of weeks prior to their bye week, but they seem to have figured everything out, both on the ground and passing. And I just like how this year is shaping up for them. Plus, the one thing that can harm Cincy is a good pass rush, and that's not something that the Chargers have. So, ships out and arrows up for my man Burrow this week.
All right, I dig it. And as somebody that's been riding that Bro, I'm gonna call it a roller coaster because I think he's tight end. I think he's QB 12 on the year, but I just feel like, man, sometimes, and maybe it's because the leagues I have him in, which I have in 2 leagues, and interceptions are -2 and touchdowns are only 4. And it seems like every damn time I'm like, all right, I'm shaping up 20-point game. We're looking good here. And then he throws a damn interception when he doesn't need to, like randomly in the game against Pittsburgh when they're up by 30 and just throws a pick. I'm looking for a good game from him this week. So I dig it. I like the call. Should be a good matchup for him. I'm going to throw this one in here. I usually don't like making calls on Thursday night games because the podcast listeners get a little shorted, but too bad. Yeah. And G's bringing it right here. Start Taysom Hill or Big Ben. My start of the week at quarterback is Taysom Hill. Do I think the Saints are going to have a great game overall? Do I think Taysom Hill is going to have fine fantasy or, NFL numbers? No, because no one knows who the hell this guy is, but he runs a lot. And no Alvin Kamara this week. So I bet you they lean on Taysom Hill as a runner quite a bit. Mark Ingram will be back tonight, which will be good. But whenever Hill's in the lineup as the quarterback, we saw it for a month last year, he's top 12, whether you like it or not, I guess, type of thing. Like, I don't want him to be good either, but he has been for fantasy purposes. So maybe you don't even watch the game. You just put him in and then turn it off, turn the game off, because it's going to be nasty, I feel like. But I think he'll just cobble together enough numbers that, it'll feel like a bad Jalen Hurts game. I feel like, I forget, I think it's Ryan McDowell on Twitter. He posts every week the players that have gotten QB1 weeks, how many, running back 1 weeks, how many. Hurts is like the only guy that I think he's up at like 10 or 9 or 10. No one else has even within 2 of him, right? Which seems weird, feels weird, but that's just what the rushing will do for you. And I think that's what we're going to see with Taysom Hill tonight. So I can check his ownership, but I bet you he might even be out there in some leagues. So if you're starting these guys we're going to bench as our sits maybe, but if you're in a pinch, I think Taysom Hill is a fine streamer if anything else. So what's your thoughts on Taysom? Maybe an unbiased opinion. Maybe I'm just locked and loaded on the fact that I propped him up earlier. What's your thoughts on him tonight?
It's a perfect transition because Taysom's actually my sit of the week.
All right. He's complete opposites this week.
Complete opposites. So this sucks for you, G, but for me, he's the only person in the top 13 in ECR right now that I am uncomfortable starting. And it has to do completely with his surrounding targets. We've seen Taysom Hill with talent around him. He had Emmanuel Sanders even when Michael Thomas was out last year. And when he was in games last year, he was successful with Michael Thomas. He was successful because Alvin Kamara was pulling the coverage away because there was a legitimate threat in the backfield. So I've said in the past, I do like Mark Ingram just from a volume standpoint this week. But when it comes to Taysom, they're missing both of their starting tackles, one of their starting guards. They don't have Michael Thomas. They don't have Alvin Kamara. They do not have Adam Troutman. So you're telling me what? I have to depend on Taysom Hill in any passing production that he has with guys like Traquan Swift, like Deandre Harris, like Marquez Callaway, who was everyone's darling at the beginning of the year, but has done absolutely nothing for you if you've rostered him at any point during this year. I'm staying away from Taysom. This is just the perfect prime week for me where I want to wait and see. I'm perfectly okay with you picking him up, but I am not comfortable starting him with none of his talent around him. It's like I said, it's just the only person in the top 13 I'm uncomfortable with. I would start pretty much everyone from 14 all the way down to my start in Burrow. I guess Burrow was right in the same range, but anyone up to basically Jimmy G in that 18 to 19 range, I'd probably feel more comfortable with just securely getting me a minimum of 14 to 15 points because Taysom has that ability to not give you that at all as a passer. So.
Gotcha. Hey, definitely. So there you go. I'm glad we did not help G at all. I've been dodging his calls, and now we're giving him different fantasy advice here. But he says thanks anyway. But yeah, I get it. I feel a lot better if he had those weapons for sure. And even though it is Thursday, at least it's not a short week technically for the Saints. They were on regular rest, but as far as those guys being out, I get it. And the offensive line, that's something I think maybe gets overlooked from time to time too in fantasy, is when these guys are missing on that O line, especially.
They're currently starting their 4th and 5th string tackles at right and left tackle right now, just to give you guys perspective on what you should expect from this Saints game specifically. I mean, I guess their center's really good, so the run game shouldn't be that affected, but it's ugly.
And we got DeMarcus Lawrence coming back for the Cowboys tonight. So, and Parsons going to have like 8 sacks. Won't matter. All right. Before we get into my sit at quarterback, let's take a question here from Mike, who is usually joining us every week. So I appreciate you, Mike, tuning in. Thoughts on Daryl Henderson with a leg injury and Gallop tonight. So I did see this just came through. We got an alert, or I got an alert that he being Daryl Henderson did not practice again on Thursday, dealing with a quad injury sustained last week. Initial reports where he was going to play, just wasn't going to practice. So, I mean, I guess it's not a surprise yet. Want to pay attention to those practice reports on Friday, but general thoughts on Henderson this week and Gallop going tonight against the Saints.
I still like Henderson. Henderson has been an extremely under the radar, extremely sneaky good running back. He is a workhorse. We thought that Sony was going to eat into some of his carries. We thought it was going to be a split this year. It hasn't been like that at all. When he's healthy, I guess is a good way to phrase this question. When he's on the field, he's productive because they give him the ball. So if he's healthy enough to go and he does play, I feel very confident running him out there because odds are Henderson isn't your RB1 in this situation. And then when it comes to Gallop tonight, this is one of those situations where I'm going to tell you not to play him because Amari Cooper's back, but the targets have been there this entire time. And this is going to be the situation where for some reason he freaking goes off when I tell you not to start him. So again, I would defer that Gallop question over to our Cowboys specialist over here on the left side of my screen.
Yeah, I'm on Gallop. It's tough when Cooper's there only because, Gallup's their deep threat. That's how they use him when they have their full complement. So I don't think you're going to see 8-9 targets to Michael Gallup tonight. I just don't see it. So it's really unfortunate. One of those boom bust guys. And generally, with there being also very little of a chance that all of a sudden he falls into some targets, which sometimes you have these players where they're generally at, all or nothing type plays, but there's times where they're going to work their way into some targets in the offense. I just don't see that happening for Gallup whenever Cooper and Lamb are both healthy. And I don't expect this to be a game where it's going to be a shootout necessarily either. So I would bench Gallop tonight as long as you have a decent enough option anywhere else. I think with Thursday, generally the approach I take is as well as if you're dealing with the alternate being an injured player, you might need to just play Gallop. I think you could do worse, but I don't feel overly confident with him. And to Henderson, I think you nailed it, man. I mean, the guy's been really great when he's been out there, to be honest. And the only thing I would just note on Henderson and with injured players, just double check what your other options are. Pay attention to the injury report. If it's sounding like it's going to be a game time decision or something like that, despite the Rams playing, or they actually are, they're at home. So they're in LA, which means late afternoon start. So your alternative options are going to be a little bit limited. Yeah. But as long as it's sounding like he's going to be a go, I'm taking that risk. And I'm, if you need to protect it, grab anybody else. Playing in the later games, just slide Henderson into your flex, give you some options. But if he's on the field, then he's in my lineup. So
yeah, and like you said on Gallop specifically, when you're looking at lesser options, for me, a very common option that's come up in a lot of my leagues, as I'm sure is the same with you guys, the Jaguars wide receiver core. I'd pretty much start Gallop over any of them this week. Regardless of the volume. I understand the argument for Laviska Shenault getting 9 targets a game, but he's going to get Jalen Ramsey treatment, I almost guarantee, this week. You're going to have the second best corner in double coverage, potentially in Marvin Jones, so you're relying on Laquan Treadwell this week. I would be very comfortable starting Gallop over those, pretty much any of the New York Giants wide receivers, just because of health options. So that's the type of range I'm looking to start Gallop in, but pretty much any of the options on the other teams above him, I'm staying away.
Yep. And I think that's a good spot to have him at. So I'm with you there. So hopefully that helped, Mike. Appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for the question. And I think we just got to wrap up QB with my sit of the week. Yep. And I am going to sit Russell Wilson. I am tired of watching this man put up 9 fantasy points in my lineup. He got that late touchdown against the Seahawks, which salvaged his day with two touchdowns. But that was his only game his last 5 that he had more than 210 passing yards. He only has 6 total touchdowns over that 5-game span, and 2 of them came last week. They are going to be at home against the Niners, but man, he has worked his way into the bench spot in 1 QB leagues. I would rather take a shot on somebody else and let Russ cook on the bench this week. Sorry, I was pulling up the QB rankings. If you have Carr and Burrow, I think are pretty safe options over them. Personally, I would start Taysom Hill over him as well, but Carson Wentz, who's ranked below him in ECR, I'd even take a shot on Tua over him as well. So
you just went back to back with 2 of the most consistent performers this year in fantasy. They have not gotten you gangbuster numbers in any of the weeks that they've played, but they have not disappointed as long as they've started and stayed in the game the entire time. 100% would be starting Tua and Wentz over a guy like Russ this week.
Yeah, I think Tua, I don't have it in front but I had my waiver notes from last week, and his last 5 starts. So if you don't include the closer game where he came in at halftime, he's averaging 19 fantasy points. Yeah,
he had 10 points and a half, so he would have realistically gotten you 20 points again that game.
And so I think you go that route with Russ this week. I think you can get away from him. You had another option that you played for the other month that Russ was out, so take a look there.
Yeah.
All right. We got a question here from Anthony. You said this is a Thursday related question. So apparently Amari Cooper will be limited. That's the report as of right now. That's our best information. So would you start Elijah Moore, Chase Claypool, Van Jefferson, or CEH over Amari? I like those options, but where are you leaning, Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect transition into my start of the week at the running back position being Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Denver has been extremely suspect against the run, specifically this year. Last week, you saw Denver take advantage of the fact that for some reason the Chargers refused to run the ball against them. And that's what you get. Their pass game is their strength, and their run defense is extremely suspect, specifically over the last month. There's some injuries on the interior of that defensive line. I really like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If you're uncomfortable with the Amari Cooper play, I understand you wanting to kind of go a different way. Obviously, this is a flex position based off of the players that you have. And so me and Kyle have told you in the past, we love to start those running backs in the flex position. That's usually our go-to. And this is a week where, just volume aside, CEH is healthy. He should be out there, and it's a really good matchup for him. So if you're uncomfortable with Amari, I would lean CEH. I would probably be starting Elijah Moore over Amari Cooper in general, just based off of what he's been doing as well. So that's about it.
Yeah, I would probably start all these guys over Amari, to be honest. I mean, some of them are close. Jefferson's close, but you don't need to risk it. You have great options. And the other thing I'll just maybe even emphasize as well is I loved the usage for CEH before the bye week. There was no reason. Daryl Williams just came off of a monster performance.
Yeah,
and then they were heading into a bye. CH hadn't been on the field for over a month, and they still put him out there with a really nice, carry share and involvement in the offense.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see CH right away.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason Daryl Williams was on the field earlier in the season was for pass catching downs, which is probably for some God unknown reason still going to happen. I swear, like, they're open in the exact same situations. I'll make a little montage at some point over the next week, and I'll send it into the Patreon so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But there have been multiple plays this season, because I'm in KC. I watch every KC game, where I'm like, all right, CEH has been open in that exact same play, that exact same situation, and he passed it to Daryl, but he won't pass it to CEH. Then he takes a sack, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, the usage is great when he's in there on the ground now. Andy finally understands that he's not going to win games unless he runs the ball. So you're looking for that 15 to 20 touch game from CEH, which is a very easy and very likely situation. So
yeah, I like it. I like the other options. Right, you can sit Cooper with confidence. I think you'll be good to go. We got a bunch more Thursday questions, so we got to get to. Let's just keep rolling through these.
Yeah,
Aaron says another Cooper, a Cooper or Pittman.
For that one, I'm probably leaning Pittman. He's still the alpha in that situation, just because of the slightly suspect of Amari's COVID. The thing is, he was symptomatic this entire time, and he's unvaccinated, so it is a thing that we really haven't touched on all that much, because I'm pretty sure no one likes to talk about COVID again at this point. But it's a real thing. Even if they don't limit him, it's just a situation where they have a lot of mouths to feed. I do like Amari in the offense, but there's no reason to risk it when you have Pittman, who is the alpha option on the offense. But but I mean, Indy just needs to keep running the ball. Jonathan Taylor's a god. So, but I'd still lean Pittman in that situation.
Yeah, agreed. I'm going to go Pittman as well. This is a great alternative for Cooper. So I think you could roll Pittman. I wouldn't watch the game.
Nope.
One of those things, because you're going to hope for it early. They're playing the Texans. So chances are it has to come in the first half, but I think you're safe. Go with Pittman and with confidence, my friend. Should be good there. Another Thursday one, Mateo, full PPR, Mark Ingram or Terry McLaurin. So Ingram going tonight. We know Kamara is out, and even Tony Jones with his 20 carries for 4.5 yards. He's inactive for the Saints. So it's the Mark Ingram show here tonight against the Cowboys. So Ingram or McLaurin, where are you leading PPR? Yeah,
I mean, pretty much any question that any of you live in the chat have regarding a Saint starting tonight, I'm going to tell you to not start the Saint tonight. The situation's just so bad, guys. I wouldn't be touching anything on the Saints offense this week unless you want to start Taysom. I understand the allure of starting him, but any of the weapons and options you have, you don't want to start him. It's been proven that Taysom doesn't prop up any specific position, doesn't prop up any options. He actually takes away from the running backs. So I would be extremely suspect when it comes to Mark Ingram and even in PPR. Plus Terry, he's been a little bit of a roller coaster, but he's still a boss. He's still leading the team in targets. Henneke looks his way in key situations and in the red zone. So,
Yep, agreed. I think Ingram is an RB2 tonight. But when you have McLaurin, there's no reason. I know technically the Raiders, like when you look at these guys on sites or whatever, they'll show like, the matchup's not great. Technically, the Raiders give up the 6th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. But there's been big games to be had. Last week, Wilson and Gallop both had over 100 yards. Just a few weeks ago, Tyreek Hill lit them up for 80 and 2. McLaurin is good enough that you should be plugging him in and not really thinking about it. He's inconsistent, which stinks. But that's just part of it. Being in that offense, I just think it's not going to give you the same results that we would want every single week from McLaurin. Yeah. But in this case,
he's a very similar player to Tyler Lockett when Russell Wilson was healthy. You're going to get the huge boom weeks, and when you decide not to play him because you're sick of the 9-point games, you're going to regret it. So I would be sticking with him.
Yep. Another one tonight. We got Anthony back. Ertz or Schultz. We got a lot of Z's going on here. I'll start and then we'll finish with a good tight end advice with you. I'm going to go with Zach Ertz. He's been good for the Cardinals, and Schultz with Cooper and Gallop both on the field has not been so great. I like Schultz a lot. But I think with Ertz, it ain't broke. So I'm going to roll with Zach Ertz, who's been really dependable pretty much since stepping foot in Arizona, which is good to see. Fantasy owners were gifted this too late mid-season, but to get Zach Ertz free made him fantasy relevant and obviously Goddard as well. So I'm gonna go with Ertz. Where are you looking?
Yeah, this is another conflict one we have. Zach Ertz is actually, I have a double. I'll just give it to you guys a little bit early. We'll skip positions and go tight end first. I have a double sit, and it is the Arizona and Chicago Bears game. They are 2 of the top 3 teams against the tight end position on the year, and they have been that way the entire year. Literally outside of touchdown production, they have not allowed over 40 yards to the tight end position. They're averaging about 3 receptions a piece to the tight end position as well. I'm avoiding those. Plus, you have DeAndre Hopkins coming back with Kyler Murray. The target share that he likes to play with that. And then we haven't actually seen a huge production game with Zach Ertz with Kyler Murray because Kyler Murray's been out the entire time. So it's just something I'd be a little bit wary of. Schultz, again, the matchup's not great, specifically with the linebacking core of New Orleans. But if I have to pick one of the two, I know it's Thursday and it's not fun playing a tight end on Thursday and having to look at a bad score. I would be leaning Schultz. I'll just give you that air of caution. He's not super high in my rankings. He's sitting at 14 on the week, and Ertz is in the 20s. So it's just one of those things. If you had a better option, I'd say go with it, but I'm leaning Schultz in the matchup.
Well, maybe we'll jump around here and add even a little bit more context for Anthony. Don't know if this is possible, depending on if it's a dynasty league or what, but my start of the week at tight end is Foster Moreau, who is available still in about 80% of Yahoo leagues. It doesn't sound like Waller is going to play. So I would go Moreau over both of these guys, to be honest. I know ECR wouldn't yet because Ertz is still, I think, just outside the top 12. Would you lean Moreau over? Would that be an alternative to either of these guys that you could plug and play, or would you still go with Schultz?
Waller hasn't been officially ruled out yet, has he?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
He was a DN.
Yeah.
He was a DNP the last 2 days, but they have not said whether.
Yeah, and it's one of those resting situations. That's the thing, though, is like if Waller plays, Monroe's not going to see any targets. And with Schultz being on Thursday, it's just such a gamble to play with a guy that might not even play for you, basically.
Sure.
I would. The situation, again, you have to make it tonight. I would go Dalton Schultz and Zach Ertz under Monroe if Monroe is the only tight end on the field. But I am taking both of them over Monroe, obviously. So it's an ugly situation. It's not that's why Thursday tight ends are always so tricky. And I try not to recommend them, but it's just one of those weird situations. I don't own Waller anywhere, so I've never really had to deal with this situation, which is nice. But I own Waller in a lot of places, so I spent a lot of money on Foster Moreau this week. He went 6 for 60, 6 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown in his last start when they sat Waller before their bye. I don't think Monroe is like a top 5 guy by any means, but I do think he's startable, top 12. I spent a lot of money on him, and then on Sleeper, it's always hilarious because you can see who else bid, and sometimes there were no bids, so that was depressing. But I had to do it. I felt like so that's what happened. But all right, a couple more here. This is another Thursday. Mike's back. Dak or Cousins? Where are you leaning? I mean, for this one specifically, with all his weapons back, I'm going to be leaning Dak in this option. I know that Kirk is going up against Detroit, but I think this offense is going to be looking a lot different. I don't think Deandre Swift is playing this week, realistically. It's a shoulder injury. They're not competing this year. They have no reason to put him out there if his shoulder's not 100%. Look at Dalvin Cook. It happens like all the time. I would be leaning Dak in that situation. Plus, this passing game from Minnesota it's looking weird. Like there's an under reliance on the tight end right now, where I thought there was an over reliance earlier in the season, and now it's just not rolling on a consistent basis. I'm going to lean Dak again. He has so many weapons. Even if Zeke's not 100%, which he probably isn't for tonight, you have Pollard on dump offs out of the backfield, which is just free yardage for the quarterback, basically. So I'm leaning Dak. What about you?
Yeah, I'd go Dak as well, despite the bias here potentially. But no, I mean, Dak is a stud. I mean, and when he has all his weapons, and even if Cooper's limited, he's still there, and they'll have him when they need him on the field, I'm sure. And even if he's not 100%, he has to be accounted for, So I just think I would roll with Dak just because I think he has more upside. Both these options should be solid. They're both top 10. And Cousins is, the perennial, QB 10, all the time, because he's just really, he usually gets it done more often than not.
Yeah, consistent.
But I think Dak, you keep him in there. I mean, that I don't see any reason to take Dak out unless he is in a situation like he was a few weeks ago without Lamb and Cooper. They'll be back. Dak's in my lineup.
Yeah, and I don't hate Kirk. And Kirk, the wild thing, he threw his 3rd interception of the year last week.
Yeah.
Like he's turned into Aaron Rodgers this season, which is insane. Like I was blown away when I heard that. I was like, oh my goodness. But consistent. I just can't start anyone over Dak if Dak's healthy for me.
And with Cousins, it's been weird because he's not like an insane turnover guy, but he does throw picks traditionally. And I remember at the beginning of the year, I forget who the hell they played. There was like back-to-back weeks where I was just messing around. Apparently I had, too much time on my hands, and I was like, so I ended up betting like the over 1.5 interceptions for Kirk Cousins. Cause I was like, this guy's bound to start throwing some. I think I burned like $10 in 2 weeks. I was like, okay, forget it. I'm done.
Yeah.
No,
we're done.
That's when you should probably be finding something else to be more productive with your time instead of betting Kirk Cousins interceptions.
Interception lines.
Oh my God. Degenerate maybe. All right. G said he's taking Micah Parsons over Mark Ingram, so he's accurate there.
Yeah, I mean, we got DeMarcus Lawrence back. We didn't even talk about that for your boys. So now Micah Parsons actually gets to play a roaming linebacker role, which he's literally been a top 10 D end this year, and he's even more dangerous as a roaming linebacker. So I'm excited for you guys. Your defense is so good. It's so underrated, and I hate it. Like, no one talks about how good on paper, and when you guys are clicking, your defense is.
Yeah, I can't wait to get Gregory back, too. I think that's going to make this unit even better, man. But I was wrong on Parsons. Maybe I was just pissed because I wanted them to get Surtain, but they did the right thing. Obviously, this kid has been really awesome for the Cowboys, not just on the field. That his mentality is just crazy, man. So I've enjoyed it. Anyway, Mateo's back for another one. This is another Thursday question, so we're gonna get to it here. This one's tough. Mark Ingram or Henderson. Henderson's banged up, as we talked about, and then we have Goddard or Logan Thomas. So that isn't a Thursday question, but we got two questions here. Mark Ingram, Henderson, and then Goddard or Thomas. Where are you leaning?
I'll let you take the Ingram Henderson. I'll just talk about the tight ends a little bit more. For me, Goddard has pretty much solidified himself as a plug and play every week tight end. Last week was a weird week for Philly. He's still seeing a lot of usage in the offense, and he still is a main target, but we're seeing more of a reliance on the run game in Philly. So you're seeing a lower overall volume of targets all around. So that's the only thing with him. I think that changes next year specifically. But when I'm looking at Logan Thomas, the man got robbed of a touchdown last week. When he's in there, he is pretty much the only target that anyone looks towards outside of Terry McLaurin, including Tyler Heineke. He's officially healthy. I think it was very smart to hold him out an extra 3 weeks, even though he was ready to come back, allegedly, after his little IR stint. And he looked good out there. I'm not concerned about any of the other tight ends. I think they just kind of eased him in last week with Jesse Bates. He still saw, I think it was like 65% of the tight end snaps, and I expect that to go up. They also have a pretty favorable matchup this week. So I'm looking actually Logan Thomas in this lineup, specifically just because I don't know if Hurts is going to be very mobile. And I haven't seen Hurts not run. So I'm a little sus of Hurts this week, just overall.
Yeah, I mean, and they don't have to throw. They're playing the Jets, who are the worst team against the run. They could just run it all day and probably walk out with a victory. So.
If Miles Sanders doesn't play and Boston Scott doesn't get 20 carries, I'm going to beat someone up. Like, it frustrates. Like, Boston Scott is like my love child. And when it comes to fantasy football, he is the most underappreciated running back. Like, he just, like, it doesn't matter how many carries you give him, he averages 5 yards a carry. You give him 3 or you can give him 25, and he's going to average 5 yards a carry, which is amazing. Just like what I don't know. I don't care that he doesn't pass catches. I don't care catch passes. Sorry. And I don't care that he's not like 220 pounds and 5'10". The dude just produces every single time he's in the lineup, and people refuse to play him. The team refuses to use him. And it just frustrates me so much.
Yeah,
that's my rant.
I'm in a league with a buddy who he loves Boston Scott too. Like, he always takes him, like, in every draft, even in like redraft leagues, like last round, Boston Scott. I'm just like, but you're right. When he gets the opportunity, he's been the man.
Dude, when you watch him, it's like, if you like any smaller running back, like across the history of the NFL, you can't not love Boston Scott. And it's just one of those frustrating things where everyone's always like, give me Gainwell, give me Howard. I'm like, give me Boston Scott, more Boston Scott.
I love it. We found the pressure point here. Just bring those Boston Scott questions anytime. We'll get Dallas riled up. But
they're gonna roast me in the group chat because I just went off a little bit, but it's fine.
I like the Logan Thomas call. If David Njoku gets that touchdown that he did on Sunday night, there's no way in hell Logan Thomas shouldn't have got his.
It was a touchdown. They took it away from him. They literally took it away.
Crazy. But on the running backs, I like Henderson enough, man, that it's tough you got to make the call now. But I like Henderson enough where if you have any other option on your bench, I'd risk it. Like we talked about earlier, like Marvin Jones. I own too much freaking Marvin Jones, and I hate it every week. And I'm having to plug him in because I got some injuries. But like, that's a guy that, like, I would not want to start Marvin Jones. But if the difference is I can start Henderson, and I have Marvin Jones as a backup type of thing, then I'll risk it with Henderson type. So that should give you an idea. Like, Marvin Jones is probably not even a wide receiver 3 right now at this week. So, but if you have a body, pretty much, I'd get him into the flex and I'd wait it out with Henderson. It's tough because you got to make the call now, but that's what I would do.
Maybe even like a guy like Boston Scott. You got him sitting on your roster. I'd be comfortable going with Henderson.
Why not? And I mean, there could be some options out there, like, as much as it would probably be gross, but like James Robinson was a DNP today after going limited same game, pick up Carlos Hyde. I mean, you could, I not that I want to start Hyde over Ingram, but if that gives me the opportunity to play Henderson, I'm going to try to do that. That's the kind of player you do that for.
Hyde, I don't understand Jacksonville. Hyde saw 3 targets last week. Why are we targeting Carlos Hyde in the backfield? I don't understand what's happening with that offense.
Yeah, I have no idea. That team, I want it to work because I just feel like they've been so crap. But I don't know. Everything about that team frustrates the hell out of me. And that's maybe it's just because I'm sitting here with like 3 Trevor Lawrence Superflex shares, and I'm like, did I just get like, I don't know, Derek Carr like at best here? Like, what am I looking at? So not happy.
Yeah, dude, he's not accurate. And I mean, that was the thing. He wasn't super accurate in college. He's had really good weapons and he's got a really pretty deep ball. But let me tell you, it's really hard to throw a deep ball when you're getting sacked within like 2.5 seconds. So.
Yeah. So hopefully better days ahead. But anyway, we're sitting here at 35 minutes. If you got the questions, keep them coming. But let's kind of rapid fire a little bit through here. We kind of jumped around. Yep. So we got through the quarterbacks. Your start of the week at running back was CEH. My start of the week at running back is whoever is playing for the Eagles. Maybe it's Boston Scott. That'd be great. But the Jets are so god awful. And because these guys aren't usual starts, I think it's worth calling them out. Maybe I'm cheating because it's the best matchup for running backs by far. Mm-hmm. I think they give up on average like 6 more points a game than any other team. So it's whether it's Miles Sanders or Boston Scott, I feel good starting them either way there in week 13. So sit of the week, I'll just keep going. I'll give you mine. I'll kick to you. I'm sitting the New England running backs against Buffalo. Buffalo has the 3rd fewest fantasy points allowed to running backs on the season. And Bill Belichick's up against it again, man. He's got the tape measure out, and he is sawing right down the middle, and it pisses me off because I got a lot of Damian Harris. I got a lot of Stevenson, but I don't feel great starting either. And in a tough matchup, I'm going to try to get them out of my lineup if I can. I think Harris is the play if you had to start one because I think he's still getting the goal line work, but they're really just alternating series. So I think it more comes down to when you see like, oh, he had more carries inside the 10. I think it's just because they got inside the 10. I don't think that on his drive, I don't know that they're really like strategically playing these guys because I've seen Stevenson in there in goal line situations as well. So if I had to pick one, it'd be Harris, but I'm going to try to get away from both these guys this week. So who are you avoiding at running back week 13?
This is a fun episode for me because mine are the running backs on the opposite side of the field. I have both Singletary. I don't think Moss is going to play right now, but also Breida is getting some love just because he's getting some of the pass game work. People are getting cute. I know leagues are deep, but you don't want to start either one of them, especially even with Moss out. It was phrased perfectly on the Underground with the Podfather, one of his episodes. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. Basically, the only reason that Buffalo has running backs is to give Josh Allen's arm a break, which is like the perfect way of phrasing it because they don't ever actually commit to the run. And that's the reason they lose some games because they refuse to. Like Singletary has been pretty good, but they will not give him 20 carries. They'll give him 10. And that's about all he's going to get. So it's the frustration that you saw like with CEH last year, kind of. You're not getting a lot of the volume. It's now split between 2 backs and it's just really inconsistent. Plus some IDP love for you guys. New England has 2 of, in my opinion, the best run-stopping young linebackers in the league in Josh Uche and in Jerome Bentley. Jerome Bentley just turned 25. He's been on New England just trying to basically make his way over the last couple of years, but injuries have kind of derailed him. Dude's a monster. He's been available, actually. I picked him up in 2 out of my 3 leagues. He was available this year. A lot of people don't know the name unless you follow New England. So I guess that'd be my advice for any IDP people out there. Just go ahead and look for Jerome Bentley. But they are monsters. You don't run against them. They're basically the new high towers, which anyone who's been watching New England's defense for the last decade has been infuriated trying to run against Hightower, your team specifically. And that's basically all the Patriots are going to have again over the next decade, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm avoiding Buffalo's running backs. Don't love them. And then side note on a guy I think who's going to underperform, but I'm not obviously going to sit because no one's going to sit him. Watch out for Naji Harris. I brought it up earlier this offseason, or not offseason a couple of times, but this season a couple of times with the linebacking core and my issues for Baltimore. But over the last couple of weeks, since they've made the switch to Patrick Queen not playing the strong side linebacker, the run defense has been a lot more stingy. And this Steelers offense is just in shambles. So, I mean, realistically, I could see it just being a 22 carry for 100 yards and you're getting 10 points from Naji. So just don't expect a lot of production would be my advice.
There you go. It's probably fade a little bit in DFS if that's your game.
Yeah.
So I dig it. The thing with Breida is this is real, guys. Like we get these guys that are available everywhere. So then we're just like, oh, we got them, right? I gotta find a place for my lineup. Like,
Nope.
No, you don't. And even I fell into this last week with stupid ass Tony Jones. I kept just cramming him in lineups everywhere because I was like, Thursday, everybody's out. He's going to get all the work. And he did get all the work, but he sucked. And then I'm sitting there staring like, oh, good. That was fun. I got like 2 freaking points here.
Yeah, casual under 2 yards a carry. That's always a good sign for my running backs.
Exactly. So I would be, I would be steering clear of Breida. Don't get overly excited on guys like that. And it happens. I get it. You know, it's a shiny new toy, but sometimes it's worth, just kind of resetting for a second, seeing if it's worth it. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Read this. G said, he's saying that his partner in crime over the Aussie guys probably is Bentley, because that's a deep IDP league. I'm in that league with those guys. Mm-hmm. So, I'm sure every time whenever I'm listening to your stuff, because I like that you throw in the IDP stuff, and I always check my leagues. I'm only in 2 IDP leagues, and they're like insanely deep. I've gotten lucky on a few guys, but unfortunately, a lot of them are owned. But normal leagues, I'm sure. Take a look. We got Cash with the most interesting picture here. Fant, Schultz, or Freiermuth tonight. You got to figure out on Schultz, and Freiermuth is in a concussion protocol technically, but he's back-to-back full participants. So what are you doing with these tight ends?
This is one of those situations. I actually have Schultz and Fant back-to-back in my rankings, but I do have Schultz higher. Nick Bolton, if it weren't for Micah Parsons going off, I may have said this on your show last week or 2 weeks ago. If it weren't for Micah Parsons, Nick Bolton, our middle linebacker in Casey, may be defensive rookie of the year. It's very hard to pass against him at the tight end position specifically. He's very, very good in coverage. So I would be a little bit suspect on Fant. And as much as I hate it because I have Fant in 4 freaking leagues, Albert O is a real thing. And I'm very concerned for my Fant shares in all of my leagues. They don't want to commit to him. There's so many freaking mouths to feed already in the offense when it comes to the pass catchers, the re-signing of both Patrick and Sutton. Judy is supposed to be a target hog. So then you're looking at these tight ends. Are you going to throw the ball 50 times a week? Because if you're not, it's really hard to support all those mouths. I'm leaning Schultz in the situation. Again, I don't have any of the 3 super high in my rankings this week, so I hate recommending one of the 3 to you, man. But I'd probably go Schultz still in this situation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're giving a lot of different answers. I don't disagree with you. I'm not super excited about any of them. So I have no problem just playing Schultz, playing it safe, being done with it. Just pull the Band-Aid. Out of those 3, Fan has been so freaking frustrating. I like Freiermuth the most of the 3, but then you kind of have to wait it out and make sure he clears concussion protocol, which we've seen it before where these guys practice, but then can't get clear in time. And it just happened. So it's like it was just last week. So
yeah. And that's actually not bad advice, because if Freiermuth was healthy and I knew he was going to be healthy, I'd be starting him out of the 3. So since I'm not super strong on any of the 3 for you, Cash, I might actually go with Kyle's idea here and go with Freiermuth, and then you still have the option to audible out and go with Fant. Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact game times. Do you know?
Fant plays late afternoon, I'm pretty sure. I'll pull it up.
Is Pittsburgh the Monday night though?
Yeah,
I can't remember. Doma, I'll sing to you guys. Sorry, this is really bad for podcast.
That's all good. I got it right here. Here it is. So Pittsburgh is the late afternoon, and Denver's the night game against Kansas City.
So that's a perfect situation. That would be my advice actually now. I would see if Freiermuth's healthy. If he's not, then you have the option to go with Fant, and you can rest assured because we're not super high on Schultz, so just take it as an L for my tight end game if you didn't start so it's fine.
There you go. Got some options there. I got to run here soon, but we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me your start and sit at wide receiver?
Yeah. So my start of the week at the wide receiver position is actually against my Kansas City Chiefs. I know I just talked about the linebackers, but I'm going with Jerry Judy this week. I know it hasn't been super great. It's just kind of been there, and you're getting production, and it's nothing gangbuster. He's not getting a lot of the huge games that you're expecting from him with his draft capital and probably what you had to spend on him to get him. But when it goes against Casey's defense, right now, the third cornerback is where you want to take advantage of them. Sharkvarius Ward and Ladarius Sneed, some fun names for you, are the two outside corners for KC. They are pretty damn good. For lack of better phrasing, they're just very good, and they're very good at coverage. But Rashard Fenton, who is our nickel and third cornerback, is quite possibly in the bottom 2 to 3 corners in the entire league. So he's constantly getting picked on. This defense has improved quite a bit, but the middle of it, when you're targeting wide receivers against the slot corner, is very susceptible for Kansas City. So I'm starting Judy. Right now, he's ranked as wide receiver 28. I realistically see him finishing as a high-end wide receiver 2, if not back-end wide receiver 1 this week. I think they're going to have to funnel it through there because the deep plays aren't really an option against KC with their safety tandem. And then my sit is actually Stefan Diggs. If there's one thing that they're going to try to scheme out of this game for Buffalo, it's probably going to be Diggs. He started off the season slow. He's been popping off the last couple weeks, as Memphis and Jerry talked to you about on the Tuesday show. But I'm very suspect about that. They still have really good corners in New England. They still are very good on the back end. There hasn't been a lot of shootouts outside of that Dallas game, and he's going to have to be peppered with targets in order to force his way into contention and the true wide receiver 4 ranking that he has in the ECR this week. What about you?
Yep, I like it. My start of the week is Van Jefferson. I like the targets. I like he's on the field. Didn't come off last week. OBJ is a little bit banged up. I'll still die on the hill that I think Jefferson's the number 2 receiver there for the Rams over OBJ. They both. I almost did a victory lap on Twitter just for fun, and OBJ caught the touchdown too last week. But Jefferson, I believe, he's 29 in ECR, so he's right there with Judy. I think that Jefferson can give you a wide receiver 2 week against Jacksonville. He had 9 targets last week, like I said, and was on the field for every snap. So I'm all in on Jefferson. I think he could fill in real nice for what Robert Woods was doing. And my sit of the week is maybe it's just me getting pissed at people that continue to not perform. It is a tougher matchup. I'm trying to find a way to put Mike Williams on my damn bench. So you can pretty much write him in for 2 touchdowns this week, but he's going up against the Bengals. That secondary, that whole defense has been greatly improved. Get up the 7th fewest fantasy points to the position, but really this also comes down to just as much as Williams has not been great. He's only gone over 60 yards one time since week 6. He had 2 touchdowns in that game that he went over 60 yards. So he put all his fantasy production in that one game after just coming out like freaking gangbusters the first month of the season. And by the time we all bought into it, he decided to throttle back into crap mode. It's been well documented on any broadcast of the Chargers, like that Herbert, while he can throw the deep ball, has not been throwing it as much as he did last year. And Williams is a phenomenal deep threat that's not really being used in that manner right now. So I hope that I'm wrong, but I just think that's the time. Like I think I'll wait till I'm wrong before I start trusting Mike Williams again. So that's just me, I guess.
That's fair.
Yeah. So. I'm not as ballsy as you, though, to tell people to fade Stefan Diggs, but I like the call. All right. Tight end, I already gave my start was Foster Monroe, so I will heed to the tight end whisperer here. Who are we looking at, man? Who's a good play this week?
Yeah. So this is a pretty unpopular guy. Used to be really good. Used to be a target hog on his offense, but has been underperforming due to injuries. I know he was one of your favorites coming into the season, and I think this is the week that you guys can feel comfortable with starting Mr. Evan Ingram with the New York Giants.
All right. There you go.
So I know I kind of crapped on a lot of the receiving options when it came to the wide receivers in the New York Giants offense this week. There's a lot of injuries. Sterling Shepard may come back, but it's a hamstring injury. He's probably going to hurt himself again, even if he does. It doesn't sound like he's fully healthy because he's a game time decision is how they basically phrased it up. But Ingram is still just demanding all of the red zone targets. Daniel Jones has proved over his career that the only guy he truly feels comfortable throwing to in the red zone is Evan Ingram. Saquon's healthy. You're seeing a lot of the run game. Miami is extremely suspect, and that was before their middle linebacker got hurt to the tight end position last week. You've seen Ingram with over 80% of the overall snap share over the last 4 weeks. He's seen basically an average of 5 targets in that same 4-week span, and he's got 1 touchdown in that span. So for a guy, it's a position that's a little bit tight end touchdown reliant. But when it comes to targets, he's still one of the most targeted at the position. The matchup is there for you. And with all the other wide receiving options still being suspect, Kenny Golladay, the biggest bust in free agency in a while, is still on the team, but not seeing targets. I'm leaning Ingram this week. I haven't recommended him yet this week because I've been extremely uncomfortable with the situation, the emergence of Tony earlier on in the year, but I'm pretty comfortable starting him above a lot of the guys that have been asked specifically in the viewer questions tonight. Mm-hmm. So I'm going with Ingram as my start. Right now, I think he is, let's see, he's ranked tight end 18 in ECR. I'll be bold. I'll say he's top 12. You can probably expect top 12. So I'm going Ingram.
Nice. All right. I like that call. I'm sure there could be some guys that are looking to shake it up at the tight end position. I know, like, as again, Noah Fant owner, we talked about that earlier. For sure, that would be that would be a situation that you might just be looking for somebody else because it really can't get much worse. Unfortunately for Noah Fant, a few guys coming back, from injury with Logan Thomas has been great, but you still could be searching. So I like that call. Again, I'm starting Foster Monroe, so there you go. He's 18% owned, so you can go pick him up right now if you're not liking what you have at the position. I would start him over Gerald Everett, Hunter Henry, and man, he's currently right there with it in that range is Higbee, but I don't know if I'd start him over him or not. But again, I wouldn't play him over like Logan Thomas, Frymuth if he's healthy, Goddard, like those guys. I still think they're all ahead. But if you're looking for a tight end, if you were the Waller owner or Dan Arnold, RIP, then I think Monroe is a good pivot if you need. So who are we fading at tight end? I think you mentioned you had 2. I think you mentioned 1, but
the same game. It's the 2 tight ends involved in the Arizona and Chicago game. So Komet has been one of the most heavily targeted tight ends over the last 5 weeks. I think he ranks number 4 among the position. He does have a good rapport with Andy Dalton, but the Arizona defense currently ranks number 1. Chicago's defense ranks number 3 against the tight end position. They do not allow targets. They do not allow basically anything. Their linebacking core is built to stop the middle of the field being thrown against with guys like Isaiah Simmons and Zaman Harris. I'm trying to remember what the other linebacker is. Bad IDP moment for me. But then Roquan, although slightly injured, Trevathan's been locked down. Ogletree, the only thing he's good at is coverage. He's terrible against the run. So I'm straying away from both of them. They're both in the streaming area, and I'd be much more comfortable starting pretty much any of the other flyers that we talked about, even guys like Everett above both of Ertz and Komet, even though they're higher in the rankings.
Yeah, I like that call as well. I know Komet was a popular waiver ad this week because he's coming off career highs, but the matchup's obviously tough, so you could pivot away from him this week. If you were planning on streaming, there's still time, still guys out there. I'm sure Everett's ownership, I didn't check since waivers, but he was only about 20%, 25% owned. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he's still out there in some leagues as well. I'm sitting Conklin for the Vikings. I don't know what you kind of alluded to it earlier. Like they just stopped throwing to him. He has no more than 3 targets in the last 3 weeks. No more than 35 yards in any of those games. Now he lucked out. He caught 2 touchdowns in one of those, which was, if you streamed him, then you thank God. But it's literally touchdown or bust for this guy. And he's going up against Detroit, so he might be tempted to play him, but I am not. I'm going to try to steer clear of him right now. I need to see that 5 to 7 target range that we saw for that month period, where it's like, this is a guy, and now he has just turned to dust for whatever reason. I don't really know.
The efficiency of the entire offense has gone down because they've decided to pump the targets to the outside as if that was going to fix the reasons that they're losing games, which is their defense. It's a very weird situation. I don't know. Also, what happened to Chris Herndon? Like, they traded for him specifically, and the dude hasn't seen anything. Like, literally no snap share, no nothing for like 6 weeks. And I'm like, that feels like a wasted pick. You know what I mean? Like,
yep. Yeah, and fantasy owners have been asking that question about Herndon there pretty much since day one. That is a guy that name will forever be burned into my brain. We're gonna wrap it up with this. I don't know if this is abbreviated, but we'll just go with it. See, pick 2 in this tonight: Lamb, Pittman, Godwin. So who are we rolling with? Who we sitting?
For me, Godwin, I think, is still kind of banged up. It doesn't look right. Like, he's not getting a large target volume when he is in the games right now. Lamb's been underperforming based off of the target share that he is getting, which is a little bit suspect, but also he does play extremely well when Amari Cooper's on the other side of him based off of his splits over the last 2 years.
Yep.
So I'm definitely going Lamb in this situation, and we already talked about Pittman. I think the rankings might tell me I'm an idiot, but I'm probably going to go Pittman over Godwin in tonight's game. Not tonight's game, in this week matchup. With that Antonio Brown news, if you have Chris Godwin, I'd feel very comfortable going into the playoffs with the news from Antonio Brown that we got of him sitting out, being suspended the next 3 games, for any of you that didn't know. But for this week specifically, I'm probably going to be leaning CD and Michael Pittman.
Gotcha. Yeah, Godwin definitely has been banged up, and he, for whatever reason, last week, him and Everett didn't see anything. So I think that does turn around a bit. I think these are all great options. I don't think can go wrong. I would sit Pittman personally. I still think you're sitting a good option, though. You're going to see points on your bench. So stinks you can't fit them all in your lineup, but hopefully that means you have a really good team otherwise. So there you go. Appreciate you guys. I got to run. I got to double check some lineups still before this thing kicks off, and then prepare for my heart to be kicked multiple times when Mike McCarthy decides to kick field goals from not even being in the stadium. That's how he does it.
There you go.
So, Dallas, appreciate you, man. Real quick, what you got going on content-wise as we are still in the busy season here as the fantasy season keeps rolling?
Yes, it's an exciting time for everyone. I'm doing my first rookie show officially of the 2022 rookie class on Sunday. I will be live streaming during the Sunday night football game. We'll be doing a nice little Q&A. I may realistically just keep it rolling the entire game, so anyone that wants to pop in and ask questions can feel free to. But going to be talking over pretty much anything that you guys want to talk about, any questions you guys have about the specific segments you want to see, stuff like that coming up in the 2022 off season. I'll go through my basic top 5s that I have right now at the positions before the bowl games. And then you guys will be getting my true top 10 positional rankings after the bowl games. I will put a little asterisk that is before I've seen tape on every game of every players. Anyone in the Patreon knows I started diving quite a bit into my running back class over the last 2 days. I'm seeing a lot more prospects that I like than what is being talked about. So I'm excited to talk about them. If you guys are from a specific alma mater, specifically Power 5, because I'm kind of cheapskate and I don't like to dive super into the non-Power 5 guys, feel free to ask me about your favorite players from the teams, and I'll tell you guys my take. I was talking to Shane Hallam last night about a couple of players as well. So I'm excited to dive in. But other than that, it's just rookie season because we're hitting the bowl week here in a couple of weeks, and the championship games are this weekend. So I'm excited.
Awesome, man. There's someone again that I got to pick one. I can't have both, unfortunately. So college football usually gets the shaft this time of year, but then rookie season starts picking up. So, and usually as well with all these damn bowl games rolling up, that's when I watch more football than ever in the bowl games. So I always like knowing who to look for. So I will definitely be tuning in, looking for some of those names just to see who I can kind of get a look at as we get to enjoy bowl season coming up. But be sure to check that out. Join Dallas this upcoming Sunday live. I'll be back on Saturday with waiver wire sniping. So come hang out with me there. That's going to be live on YouTube only. But there you have it. A solid hour. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate all the questions. Makes the show a lot more fun. I mean, we had to we had to like fit in the start sits even with this one. So this was a good time. But enjoy the game tonight. Good luck in week 13. I'll catch you on Saturday with Way Where We're Sniping, and then tune in Sunday night to hang out with Dallas. So see you guys later.
Yep. How about them Cowboys?
Let's do it.